Welcome to the final part of this lesson where we'll be answering this question before us, which says solve this right here. Now, again, we're going to be using our factor theorem to do this, and recognize that you need to be able to recognize when you see a question like this that you need to use the factor theorem to solve it. The reason for that is because you can't take out a common factor here, nor would Factorize by grouping work. So that means in order to solve it, remember you first have to factorize it, and the only way to factorize it is use our factor theorem. So the first thing that we're going to do here is I'm just going to begin by just letting p of x be equal to what we're told here. So let's p of x be equal to 2x cubed minus 5x squared plus 5x minus 2. That's what we're going to begin by doing, just to make our lives a bit easier. The next thing that we're going to do is use our factor theorem, which means we're going to be considering factors of our constant, subbing them in until we get 0 out, and that means we have found a factor. So that means our step 1 is to consider factors of 2, because that's what we've got at the end here, factors of 2. So that means we're going to get plus or minus 1, and we're going to get plus or minus 2. That's what we're going to be subbing in. So let's now go through these to figure out which of these we would be using. So I'm going to go p of 1 to begin with, and if I put 1 to this, I can go 2 minus 5 plus 5 minus 2. So I simply put 1 into my x spot, and as you can see here, well, this worked out perfectly because I've got minus 5 plus 5 is 0, and 2 minus 2 is 0. So this is very lucky. The first number that I put in got me 0 out. So that means what I can say is x minus 1 is going to be my factor. So therefore, x minus 1 is a factor. The reason why I know that is because I put 1 in, I got 0 out, so that means I have to change the sign. X minus 1 is going to be a factor. The next thing that we do is we divide to find out other factors. So I'm going to quickly write that down. Our step number 2 is going to be divide. So this is where we do a bit of polynomial division. So let's set this up. So I'm going to get x minus 1 here. Whoop, we don't need to put a bracket there, do we? So let's just get rid of that. I've got x minus 1. I do that. And now I'm just going to write down what I have here. And I might zoom in to do this. So what I have here is 2x cubed minus 5x squared plus 5x minus 2. All right, let's do some polynomial division here and see what happens. So x times what gives me 2x cubed. Let me get a green one. That's going to be 2x squared. Then I multiply this out like so. This is going to be negative 2x squared. I'm going to subtract this. This goes to 0. This now becomes plus 2x squared because I got a minus out here, which is going to leave me with negative 3x squared. I then carry this one down to get 5x. Then I go x times what gives me negative 3x squared. That's going to be negative 3x. Then I multiply this out, negative 3x squared. And then negative 3x times negative 1 is going to be positive 3x. I then subtract this. Remember, this always should go to 0, as it does. 5x minus 3x is 2x. I carry this one down, so I get negative 2 here. Then I go x times what is 2x. That's going to be plus 2. 2 times x is 2x. 2 times negative 1 is negative 2. I subtract, this becomes positive. Negative 2 plus 2 is 0. Remember, we had to get 0 out here because getting no remainder means that this is a factor, and that's what we proved. So now what we end up with here is we can say this times this is equal to that. So let's now write that down. We can say x minus 1, 2x squared minus 3x plus 2. Perfect. So we got that now. Remember, our next step now is to factorize this quadratic. And this is where this question gets interesting. So we're going to go 3. We're going to factorize the quadratic. So that means I'm going to take this right here, and I'm going to try to factorize that quadratic that you see. So I've got x minus 1, 2x squared minus 3x plus 2. Remember, this is equal to 0 because we're solving it. And I'm going to try to solve this, or factorize it. So I'm trying to factorize this now. Okay, again, as I said, this is where this question gets interesting, because you'd begin as you normally do by saying, all right, I need a product of 2 times 2, because remember there's a coefficient here, so it's going to be 4, and it needs to sum to -3. Now, if you try to put in some factors that make this work, you might say, well, maybe 2 and -2, but 2 times -2 is not 4. You'd get a negative, and it's quite clearly not that. That doesn't work. So you might say maybe it's going to be 4 and -1, but 4 times -1 is not 4. It's always going to be negative. And quite clearly, after a while of doing this, you realize, hey, I don't think this is going to work. Now, you can't just show me this working. If you're going to prove that this isn't going to work, what do you think you have to do? Because what you're saying is this can't be factorized. In other words, this doesn't have x intercepts. So what you have to show me is that the discriminant doesn't work. So we would have to figure out what the discriminant is here to show me that this doesn't work. So you would say b squared is going to be -3 squared, which is 9. And then you're going to get 4. Then you're going to get a 2 and a 2 here. And then you're going to get 9 minus, 4 times 2 is 8 times 2 is 16. And then look at this. This is going to be -7. So what that means is this right here can't be factorized. And we've proved that with our discriminant. And here's something that I've written up. Actually, let me not lie. This is taken straight from the textbook. It says the discriminant of this quadratic is a negative number. So this quadratic cannot be factorized further. Hence, there is only one linear factor and therefore only one solution. So that means there is only one solution to this right here. And we'll prove that with our discriminant. So that means as we now come to our answer right here, 4, which is using the null factor theorem, when we come to answer this, remember what we have is x minus 1, 2x squared minus 3x plus 2 is equal to 0. We just have to leave that quadratic as it is. There's nothing we can do with it. We're just going to get x is equal to 1 as our answer because we can only say it for that. So that means x equals 1 is our answer, and that's it. There is only one answer. There's only one solution to this, which means graphically, if we were to think about it, what does this mean? It means that there's only one x-intercept. So let's bring down our CAS, and let's just have a look at this. So if I was to solve this menu algebra solve, and I would have to come up here to look at what I was given. So I'm solving 2x cubed minus 5x squared plus 5x minus 2 equals 0, that, hit enter, and I only get one answer out, x equals 1. Now, if I was to graph this, what on earth would this look like? Control C, Control doc at graph, Control V, I hit enter. This is what it's going to look like right here. Now, most of the time, usually, if we would ask you to graph something that looks like this, we would give you your CAS because it's quite hard to do it without it. But as you can see, we only have one intercept. It's at x equals 1. That's how we would do it. So this is what our cubic looks like now. It looks a bit odd, but that's how you do it. So that's everything we had to go through. So there's our last example there. Hopefully that made sense. Hopefully you feel a bit comfortable using your CAS. Good luck with answering your exercise questions. Remember to refer to the videos of me going through some exercise questions as well. And I'll see you in the next lesson.